First of all, yeah. First of all, this is far from a diss. This is just my opinion about why people who exist in this modern day society are confused upon which gender they want to be due to some kind of mental illness. Therefore, in my opinion, the fact is simply this: people find it normal to become a transgender person by becoming the opposite sex. Because of the way this society is teaching young impressionable minds how to live with the mindset of thinking that things that are totally unacceptable are okay, which has them convinced it's acceptable for them to live that way. And it's enough to drive the older generation mad, considering it's pretty sad how bad it has become to where some schools in this country have made it mandatory to put cat boxes in the bathrooms for those children who identify themselves as cats. It's like, what has this world come to, when we can't even trust the schooling system to teach our children the wisdom of the human anatomy upon what makes them a person, with teaching them the facts about how people like us need to use the toilet. I just find it ridiculous. What they're teaching kids in these classrooms these days is completely foolish. Therefore, back in my day, the state would have been called on my parents the moment my teachers had the notion of thinking my mom and dad weren't teaching me right from wrong, upon not showing me how to be normal with my behavior. Therefore, using a cat box would have been grounds for them to call DHS to report a suspicion of an unhealthy environment for their student with a mental health disorder that needs some improvement with learning how to use the John. Although back then, cat boxes in the bathroom at school might have been considered to be a little odd. That's why it's hard to ignore the issues we're having with these children today, with behavior like this that we embrace like it's okay. It is what it is. Back in the day, my parents would have been under investigation with police detectives and DHS workers at the door to see what was going on with their operation, upon how the household was ran, for sure. Especially if I was acting like some cat who wasn't taught the difference, that I wasn't some animal who was raised on some kind of kiddie farm, and that's a fact. But it is what it is. Time marches on and things obviously change for the worst. Therefore, those days are gone and people are becoming more strange here on earth. But don't get me wrong, because first of all, this is not a diss. This is just my opinion about why people who exist in this modern day society are confused upon which gender they want to be due to some kind of mental illness. Therefore, in my opinion, the fact is simply this: the only reason why I happen to believe there's so many young people who are confused about whether they want to be a man or a woman and prefer the same gender for a sexual preference when it comes to a lover, is because we thought it was right to allow them to make their own decisions, knowing the way society is teaching them a reality to have dysfunctional behavior that's not acceptable. But through time came to make exceptions, because we feel young impressionable minds are wise enough to understand how to make the right decisions without being confused upon what's right and wrong. Because we all lost touch with reality upon thinking rational about how some things aren't knowledgeable enough to know without it being questionable, to where we foolishly allow them to choose their own directions with the hopes they'll make the right choices without our guidance, while we just let them be themselves, knowing as the older and wiser generation it's completely unacceptable what this world is teaching them younger people with impressionable minds. But we just feel everything will be okay if we support them with our love and acceptance upon their choices to be gay, knowing society made it alright, but deep down we all know it's not fine. Therefore, there's two genders in every species, which is male and female. So it's natural behavior to have sex with the opposite gender. So to be gay is a choice people choose. It's not something we're born to be. That's just another nonsense excuse that today's society has taught us to believe. But that's just a thought to stew on for those of you who are naive to remember God created Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Although we all know the truth and it's whatever, cause it is what it is. It doesn't really matter who I convince, but just heed this reminder that this is not a diss. This is just my opinion about why people who exist in this modern day society are confused upon which gender they want to be due to some kind of mental illness. Therefore, in my opinion, the fact is simply this: people find it normal to become a transgender person by becoming the opposite sex. Because of the way the society is teaching young impressionable minds how to live with the mindset of thinking the things that are totally unacceptable are okay, which has them convinced it's acceptable for them to live that way.